joining us. And we were just talking about when we first met, which is crazily, what did we say, 14 or 15 years ago? 14.
Yeah, I was 14 or 15 when we met.
Hey, that's half your life.
Years ago, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, we met in a small town in Alberta called Three Hills. And how long were we there together? About 4 years.
Yeah, I graduated 2010, and I believe you guys left that summer.
Yeah, that's when Kent was born, 2010, when we moved here. So we were like super close for years, and then we've had distance, and like you see in your posts, I didn't realize it was every spring. That was very interesting. That we just reconnect. So yeah, so about 3 weeks ago, we had another reconnection time, and then Tasha mentioned the Enneagram, and it just piqued my interest like crazy. And so she kind of gave a brief overview and basically a teaser, and then I just kind of dove in, and I've been like super intrigued with this whole thing. So Tasha, let's just start with, how long ago did you get introduced to the Enneagram, and what did that look like?
I believe just about 1.5 years ago. I think it was December, November, not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before. And I was just on Instagram watching other people's like stories and posts, and I would see this like #4 or this or that, or I don't know, just things referencing this thing with numbers all the time. But it was like interesting because it would be like something about a number and then something about the person, and I would be like, oh yeah, that is like you. And I just didn't know what it was. And so after like, I probably started seeing this stuff like September or earlier, I reached out to a friend and I was like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's the Enneagram. And she's like, check out this and check out that, and you can kind of figure it out for yourself. And that was kind of it. And so that afternoon I took, somebody sends you a personality test, and it's kind of always like, ooh, will I be understood? So I sat down right away and took the test, and it said that I was an Enneagram 4. So then I went to another website that she suggested I read about what that means. And so I was in there, and it literally felt like someone was inside of my head and wrote my own diary.
Yeah.
Like, I felt so understood for the first time, which is really ironic as a 4. Like, it's kind of the whole thing.
You'll all understand that by the end of it.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I think I just cried. I read it again and again, and I cried and I cried, and I was like, this is huge. Like, this is going to be so big for me. And then it was like, wait, I need other people to take this so I can understand them this much. Like, if someone else can take this and I can read this, then it's just like, I can be that much more empathetic for you like that, because I just kind of know how you tick. So I sent it to my sister right away, and she took it, and John came home from work, and I was like, take this now. I know you're not, but please. And now I want more about him. I maybe should have waited till the next day, but
couldn't sleep that night. Okay, so let's just pause. Anyone who's watching, in the comments, if you know about Enneagram, or if you've taken a test or done some reading, write down if you know about it and what your number is. And if you have no idea, then just say, I have no idea, and you will know by the end of this conversation.
Yeah, that's the goal. Hey?
Okay. Yes, then you understood, like, you felt yourself being written on a page. Like, you read it, you understood, like, this is a deeper part of yourself. Does it talk about all the strengths and the positive side? Does it talk about negative? Like, how did they present your type to you?
Yeah, well, it's been so long since I've actually read that page again. But yeah, it laid out my strengths, which are things I never saw really as a strength before, or maybe like inside I knew it was, but my whole life from like outside influences, it was like, you talk too much, you put too much effort on this or that, or you, like, it was, seemed like they were my weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But then reading it, it was like, no, they get this. This is like me, and this is what, like, who I am in my most inner person. And I've allowed that to get stomped on so much. And so then just like recognizing that those like can be my strengths was so like liberating and encouraging, and just like gave me a lot more confidence, and gave me more confidence to be like less easily bruised.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my personality, like somebody would come up against me and say something so harsh, and I would just like shrink in and take it very, very personal. And realizing through the whole Enneagram that that's probably because of that person's personality. They don't even probably recognize what they're doing in being so like abrasive. And so to just let that be and not take on the offense and not become bruised, like it's a choice, but I never really recognized that before then.
Just how you're describing that makes me think of like going to another country with a completely different culture, and if you haven't done any cultural training before you go, like I was just explaining to the boys today, when I was in Guatemala, it was very normal for people to budge to the front of the line, and I'd just be this polite Canadian thinking, excuse me. But then if I pointed at someone, that was the rudest thing ever. And if I had known that, then I could have really offended someone doing that. So it's like, we need some cultural training for our different personality types.
Yeah, and I think like we're so self-focused, right? That's just the way we are. That's just the way we're all wired. I think that's something we all have in common with. And this can kind of help enlighten us to how we're self-focused and how we can like start other focusing.
Yes. Okay. So let's dive in. Let's figure out what does this whole Enneagram thing mean? Where do we start? Okay.
Well, yeah. We've words. Okay. I'll get together. I'll make this happen, I promise. So as humans, like there's these three basic questions that we can all ask ourselves at different times. Maybe we're intentional, maybe we're unintentional, but there's three basic questions that we kind of all rotate around, centralize ourselves about. And so that is, what can I learn? Am I loved? And am I safe? And it might not be in such like specific terms and like nice short little questions, but in some sense, we've all faced a reality of asking ourselves one of those questions. We also, as humans, we all deal with fear, distress and shame, and anger and rage in some sense, right? Some people are just like, anger and rage are right here, and other people it's down here, but it's there, right? And then we also all struggle or flourish with or relate to our mind, which is our mental, our heart, which is our emotional, and our gut, which is instinctual. And so once we take the three questions, what can I learn? Am I loved? And am I safe? And those basic struggles of fear, stress, shame, anger, and rage, and our mind, heart, and gut, once we start putting those together and answering some of the questions therein, we find out personality. We start putting together. Like, say you wanted to write a book or a movie. Those would be excellent questions to write down for the character, right?
Yes, I was thinking about that when I took after, like when I was learning about it, like, oh, this is what actors need. Like, tells you about who the character actually is.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to read a quote here from your Enneagramcoach.com. She just says it best, so why Then for real. A map for personal growth that identifies, okay, so the Enneagram is a map for personal growth that identifies the 9 basic ways of relating to and perceiving the world. It accurately describes why you think, feel, and behave in particular ways based on your core motivations. Our core motivations are fears, desires, weaknesses, and longings. And she continues, understanding the Enneagram has the power to give you more self-awareness, forgiveness, and compassion for yourself and others.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I hear you saying this is not so much of a test of are you an introvert or an extrovert, or are you organized or disorganized? It's like going a layer deeper than that.
Yeah. I was talking with my sister earlier today, just like running my thoughts by her to make sure I made some sort of sense. And she said, like, Tasha, it's the whole, like, we're an onion thing, right? Mm. And, like, maybe the first layer of onion is, like, the extrovert, introvert, ambivert, that sort of thing. And then, but the Enneagram starts peeling layer after layer after layer. And we'll see that tonight, that there's many layers to discover, many factors to take into account. Yeah. So there's some basic rules about the Enneagram. Oh, yeah. I'm going to just back up one more note. I missed it. This is going to be great. It's a good thing I wrote some things down. Otherwise, we're just all over. So I just wanted to say that simply the Enneagram is 9 different personality types. Like, if you're like, what is Enneagram? It is 9 different personality types. Okay. And it's so much beyond that. And then there's just kind of like a few, I don't know, I don't have a better word at the moment than rules. So I'm just going to tick those off real quick because they're just good things to keep in mind when we're learning all of this. So these 9 different types are represented by numbers, nice and simple, 1 through 9. So like already tonight, I've mentioned I'm a 4. And that, if you know nothing about the Enneagram, that tells you nothing about me. But if you know the Enneagram, it tells you a lot about me. Just a nice, easy, each personality is represented by a number 1 through 9. There is also no hierarchy. Number 2 is not greater or lesser of a personality than 5 and vice versa. Numbers can be used and are used in this case as identifiers without denoting anything positive or negative. So some people have applied names to each of the numbers, and they're generally right. But if I were to tell you that the Enneagram 9 is also called the sloth, that doesn't
sound great.
It doesn't sound great.
However, 9s are like the most lovable people.
Yeah.
It does not describe them fully.
And once you get into this more, the term sloth makes a lot of sense, but right off the bat, that would really turn you off. It denotes something negative in our culture.
Right? No, 9, never mind.
Just using the numbers 1 through 9, there's nothing negative or positive about just the essence of that. Each number 1 through 9 represents a different way that someone views the world, takes in and processes information, and responds to situations or gives out information.
Okay. Take in, process, give out.
Yeah. So each personality, basically the Enneagram breaks down, there's 9 different ways to take in information, 9 different ways to process information, and 9 different ways to share information. The Enneagram is gender neutral. No type is inherently masculine or feminine. It has been studied in a variety of cultures and is found to be relevant across the board. You do not change from your basic personality type to another personality type, but we'll get into that. But
that was my first question when you introduced. I was like, yeah, well, maybe I was kind of like this when we first met, and maybe I'm more like this now. But now reading it, it's like, oh, actually, that makes sense for all of it.
Yeah, and when you first figure out your number, and we're getting here too, but you might be like, but that's not me, which is maybe you need to reassess and need to research and whatever, but also it could be you. And there could be a lot of factors why it's not super resonating with you in this moment. So we'll delve into that.
It'll make sense.
And the last kind of rule or whatever thing to keep in mind is not everything in the description of your basic type will apply to you. I already thought this out. All the time. Okay, it may not apply to you all the time. This is because you fluctuate consistently among the stages of healthy and unhealthy traits that make up your personality type. Look at that. If I just kept going.
I don't know if you can see the comments, Tasha, but Sandy says, I made it.
Hi, Sandy. She's in New Zealand.
That's very cool.
So it's like mid-noon there, or like afternoon. Tomorrow, like on Wednesday. So anyways, I'm going to read one more bit and then we can really get into like what makes up the Enneagram here. This is from the Enneagram Institute. .com. No type is inherently better or worse than any other. While all the personality types have unique assets and liabilities, some types are often considered to be more desirable than others in any given culture or group. For one reason or another, you may not be happy being a particular type. You may feel that your type is handicapped in some way. As you learn more about all the types, you will see that just as each has unique capacities, each has different limitations. If some types are more esteemed in Western society than others, it's because of the qualities that society rewards, not because of the superior value of those types. The ideal is to become your best self, not to imitate the assets of another type.
That's such good advice for anyone. Become your best self, not whatever society or you think society says is the best type. So much perspective there.
So it's already been a lot of information, but it's like just the first scratch at this. Yeah. So to dive in deeper, the Enneagram, we're very lucky, can be explained using a visual diagram. I'm a visual learner. And so it's very helpful. Like I can close my eyes and I can be like, oh, right, okay, that's how that works. Yeah, I can see it, right? So first, the Enneagram starts with a circle.
There we go.
Ta-da! Next, we plot the 9 numbers, 1 through 9, evenly around the circle with 9 at the top. Ta-da! So we have 9 at the top, and then we go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And after that, there are lines connecting specific numbers and personalities to each other. Yeah. So that's might look like nonsense, but we're gonna like explain it all.
Okay, everyone, now there'll be a test.
Yeah. So you can leave that there for a second here. So Enneagram, actually Ennea in original Greek means 9, and gram means like diagram or something of that sort. So just
picture.
Yeah, it's quite literal. It's not some big fancy oogie word. It's just what it is, quite simply. So now we can skip a little bit. We're going to come back to this photo, but we're going to go to a different one. And we're going to just talk about stances real quick. Yeah, okay. So it's a little bit tiny here, but I'll tell you what it says. So stances in the Enneagram refer to a person and how they move through the world. And there's 3 different stances. As we see here, the yellow is the aggressive stance, and the purple is the dependent stance, and the blue is the withdrawing stance. So 8s, 7s, and 3s all share the aggressive stance, and 1, 2, and 6 share the dependent, and 4, 5, and 9 share the withdrawing. So what is the aggressive stance?
What does that mean?
Yeah, the aggressive, so someone in the aggressive stance, so in Enneagram 8, 7, or 3, they may relate to all these things or a few of these things, but this is what are kind of some general ideas of what the aggressive stance may be in a person. When they walk into a room, they may bring attention quickly without looking like they're putting effort into doing it, right? Somebody that just walks into the room and they're just there and you know it. Someone in the aggressive stance may seem to have a lot of never-ending energy. They are skilled at orientating others to their own ideas, which can come off as pushy. They are excellent at reframing and reshaping situations into a positive light. They prefer to say too little over too much and protect themselves with humor. They are upbeat and optimistic and make people feel safe, but don't intuitively connect with their feelings or the feelings of others. They are all about control and feel that other people move too slowly for them. So that's the aggressive stance. So
I've also heard it called assertive stance, which for some people who might feel like, oh, I'm aggressive, relate to.
I know, there's a couple terms in here that are like just, or what I've seen that are widely used, or you just kind of have to pick one and go with it. But some of them do make you feel a bit negative about it, but none of this is like inherently negative. Yeah, so I like that, what you said versus aggressive.
I heard a friend say once who we both know, and he's like, I'm not fast. Everyone else is just too slow. That's his world. Everyone else is too slow.
So as we talk about these stances, something might stand out to you and be like, that's me. Keep track of that as we're talking. Keep track if you can see if you're in one of these. And if you're not, don't worry about it. That's totally fine. We'll explain that as well. Okay, so the dependent stance, which is the 1, 2, and 6. They are always looking or always thinking what should be done next. They place their life's reference point outside themselves and are all about other people. They are concerned about your feelings and want to respond to other people in a way that is good for everyone. They are good at connecting everyone and everything, and sometimes chain things together that are not related at all. Excuse me. They have trouble with their own boundaries, and people with established boundaries may hurt their feelings. So that's a quick overview of the dependent stance.
It's fun to rehear it now without giving too much away. My husband is a 6, and he often says, oh, hang on, I got mental chain lightning. And he'll take one conversation into the next to the next. So that was interesting. He said connect things that might not always be connected.
Yeah, it's so cool that it's like, whoa, that's just like, that is who he is, but it's also like amazing. Anyways. Withdrawing stance, 4, 5, and 9. They are independent and non-aggressive and count on their own strength and knowledge to deal with stressful situations. They are aware that there is a lot around them that needs to be done, but that their presence doesn't make a difference. Do I need to read that again? Did I stutter too much?
I think we got it. Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be done, but it doesn't necessarily need to be them.
Okay. Yeah, and feel that their presence doesn't make a difference. Their inner world is their real world because they don't connect to people easily. They handle difficult situations with resentful accommodations, and they have lots of daydreams and inner thoughts and deal with stress by pulling back and not dealing with it. Yeah, those are the stances. And like for me, I would technically, as a 4, be in the withdrawing, but I only really resonate with half of those points in there, which is just interesting.
Yeah, there might be like 1 or 2 that really stick out to you, and then a few that's like, oh, I'm not sure about that part. Jensen commented in there that on her test she got 1 and 2, so she's going to figure that out as we're talking about it. But both of them are in the dependent stance, so she's like, oh, that really resonates.
Yeah, so this next part might be the divider for her. We'll see. So those are our stances. Now we can move on to understanding what a center is.
Okay.
So that's the 5th image.
That one.
Yes. So just like there's 3 stances, there are also 3 centers in the Enneagram. We have heart, head, and gut. Heart is like your feeling center, head is thinking, and gut is instinctive. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that thought there.
There's so much to say, you're just filtering it all.
Yeah, like what's necessary in this moment. Yeah. So just stick to your notes, Tasha.
And how are you filtering it? With your gut, your heart, or your head?
Yeah. So these centers, our heart, head, and gut, are determined by how you filter life first. So when something happens in life first, what's your go-to? Do you like an emotional reaction, or do you think about it, or is it more of like an instinctive, like you just do, you just know? So as we see here, the heart center, and going up to it, I had said at the beginning about the fear, distress, shame, anger, rage, they fit into here. So in the heart center is where you'll probably find people struggling more with like distress and shame. The head center, you're going to see more fear. And the gut center is where you're going to see the anger and rage.
Okay. Yeah.
And you may see it, or you may see the opposite of it. So we see here that this wasn't in my notes, but I'll just quickly. So we see here in this diagram, I'm pointing like you can see what I'm pointing at. That the 3, 6, and 9 are in the center of those centers. And ironically, 3s struggle the most with like the emotion and heart. And 6s struggle the most with like the head and fear. And 9s struggle the most connecting like with the gut and the intuition. So if while reading these, you're like, that doesn't fit me, well, you might be a 3, 6, or 9 then, right? Kind of. So we'll get to that.
And they make more sense as you describe each of the numbers. Like just a quick example, I'm a 7, and we were talking about this just before, and I kind of like looked at this when I first learned it, like, well, I don't feel like I have any fears. Like I kind of pride myself on wanting to face difficult things. And then it was like, oh, I do all these things so that I don't even have to think about what my fear is, which we'll get to. So it's interesting. It might not jump right out at you like, oh yeah, I have shame or whatever.
Yeah, it might be super obvious, and it might just be like right over your head at this point, and that's okay. It doesn't have to start making sense quite yet. I need to stop playing with this pen. Okay. So really quickly, the heart center, which is the 2, 3, and 4, they often believe that connections with others is more important than anything else. Likely worry how they are perceived, play out their emotions by externalizing them, internalizing them, or forget them altogether. May be familiar with anxiety and how it affects them, have a hard time asking for help, and need to be relationally connected.
Okay, but that could be true of other people as well, right? So you might resonate with some of that. Like a lot of people have a hard time asking for help. I would imagine that a number 1 might also have that.
Yes.
Or a 7.
And we'll get into why that may be in a little bit too, right? So then our head center is make mental connections that are not easily seen by others, live by a specific plan, have no idea how much they are truly valued, keep thinking on something after others have moved on, be suspicious of others' motives, observe rather than relate, privately worry that they were wrong. Yeah. Okay. And the gut center, The people in the center may feel the world with their belly and have true gut grit instincts. Try to control both their inner world and their outer world. Convert lots of emotions into anger. Follows an instinctual hunch. Do their part and everyone else's part. Want to impact the world and dismiss you and others while in the process.
Okay, so a lot of like pros and cons to all of them, and we're all kind of navigating in between all of these.
Yeah.
So I like what you said too, how do you first process something? Because like when I kind of looked at it like, oh yeah, like I definitely, resonate with someone's emotions, but how would I first process it? I would start thinking first and analyzing. And yeah, so that was a good way to determine if you're not sure too.
Yeah, and like myself as a 4, everything goes internal and emotional real quickly. Like, yeah. Them emotions. Okay, so those are the 3 centers.
Okay.
Now, if you overlay the stances and the centers, a little bit hard to see here, but what you might notice is that each number has one stance and one center combination that's unique to that number. So, for example, a number 9 is in the withdrawing stance and in the gut center.
Okay, yeah. I
see no one else is both of those things. A number 3 is in the aggressive stance and in the heart center. And a number 6 is in the dependent stance and in the head center. So that's just 3 examples of the 9. So if you super related with a stance and a center, you might already have your number figured out. But if you haven't, it's so okay.
So if you're not sure on the diagram, but you can pick it out from those 2 things, you can put it in a comment. So it's heart, head, or gut. You pick one of those 3, and then dependent, withdrawing, and aggressive. You pick one of those 3.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of thinking. You might not be able to just go, oh yeah, that's me.
No. Yeah, and when I believe it was the stances I read to my husband, who's a 9, he didn't pick the right stance for himself, but he's a 9. Like there's no 2 ways about it. He's a 9. But that's likely because he's a 9 and he's in the center there and he just doesn't relate to it as much as other things. So yeah, no worries if you don't have your Enneagram number figured out yet. There's still lots to learn and there's always online personality tests. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my next point was finding your number. I might have kind of covered all that already in my little tangent. What do we have popping up here?
Emily says she's definitely in the heart, not sure on the stance. Probably the stances are hard to pick out. Like when I kind of first read them, like I would think of myself more dependent actually than aggressive. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of the description of the numbers where I realized more and more how much, oh yeah, if there's something in front of me, like I'm just going to go out and get it. Like I'm not going to wait and have a committee. Like if I've got a goal or a dream, that kind of put it in that framework, it made sense to me. So yeah, maybe let's start describing the numbers and that will help.
Yeah.
Do you want the arrow one next?
We can just take away the diagrams here for
a
little bit.
Okay. Numbers.
Yeah, so a summary of each number. So I'll just get into it and go as quick as I can with making some sense here. So let's see what this comment said.
Oh, Crystal made it. You're all good. You missed the whole precursor, but she's going through all the numbers now, so it'll give you more.
Okay. Yes, this is like you're just in time for the really, really good stuff. So we're going to start with the number 9 because they're at top. And I'm just going to start reading this here. So a number 9. Oh, yeah. So each number has a core fear, core desire, core weakness, and core longing. So that's just what we're going to look at here. There's a lot to look at for each number, but we're going to focus on those 4 things for each number.
That makes it easier. That's good.
So number 9, their core fear is being in conflict, tension, or discord, feeling shut out and overlooked, losing connection and relationship with others. And number 9's core desire is having inner stability and peace of mind. And number 9's core weakness is remaining in an unrealistic and idealistic world in order to keep the peace. They remain easygoing and not disturbed by, and they won't be disturbed by your anger. Falling asleep to their passions and abilities, desires, needs, and worth by merging with others to keep peace and harmony. Number 9's core longing is to know that their presence matters.
That's a lot of positive and negative in one. Like, oh, that's an amazing person to be around. They're so peaceful, but then where they're maybe putting themselves down or not allowing themselves to seek their own joy just to keep the peace. So yeah, you can kind of see the tension there.
I could just pause real quick. So like my husband, John, he's a 9. And this is where so when I first read the Enneagram, it moved me and I was moved to tears about myself. And I was so excited for him to come home and take the test. And when it said he was a 9 and we read that, my eyes were so opened to whoa, I need to give more attention in making sure that he's being heard. Because I'm just this is where we're going for dinner. This is what movie we're watching, blah, blah, blah. And he just never speaks up. And so I really learned to go hey, dinner tonight. What do you want? It also panics him. He's I don't always like that. But in our relationship, there needs to be that balance. So that's something that the Enneagram has brought into our marriage.
Yeah. So good. Where we wouldn't be offending him on purpose ever, but it could easily just overrule without realizing it.
Would keep it down here and I would never know it.
Yeah.
And then he's in the anger section. So then every once in a while I like to say there's just a burp of anger. And if you didn't know him, you would miss it because he's still trying to keep the peace, but he has to let it out. And it's it was really good. Okay.
Curious in the comments. Don't have to call anyone out. Probably don't. But if anyone can think of a 9 in their head by this description, you can just kind of put, oh yeah, I know a 9. And that's the joy of this is we're discovering ourselves, but then we're discovering how to relate to other people and more about who other people are. So
you might go to work and when we're all allowed to go back to work, and just be whoa, now I understand why that coworker does that all the time. And actually have grace for that. So
good.
Progressed. I'm gonna quickly, John, are you listening? My computer's dying. I started at 100, but
oh no. I don't think I can recap them like you can.
No. Okay, I'm gonna text him really quick. Need my power cord. Wow, sorry about this. Okay. Number 1, their core fear is being wrong, bad, evil, inappropriate, unredeemable, or corruptible. Their core desire is having integrity, being good, balanced, accurate, virtuous, and right. And number 1's core weakness is repressing anger that leads to continual frustration and dissatisfaction within yourself, others, and the world for not being perfect. And the number 1's core longing is to know you are good. I get goosebumps reading these things because I know people and it's just such a good reminder of how I need to hold them.
Yes. So how can you relate best to a 1? Like, what does a 1 need to hear the most? Crystal. I think you just read her mail.
Oh, thank you. Okay. And number 2. As I plug in and refocus. Oh, thank you. Number 2, their core fear is being rejected and unwanted, being thought worthless, needy, inconsequential, dependable, or unworthy of love. A number 2's core desire is being appreciated, loved, and wanted. And number 2's core weakness is denying their own needs and emotions while using their strong intuition to discover and focus on the emotions of the needs of others, confidently inserting their helpful support in hopes that others will see how grateful they are for their thoughtful care. And a number 2's core longing is to know that you are wanted and you are loved.
Yeah. Okay, Emily's got a really excellent question, and if you want to direct to a resource expert, that's totally fine, but take your best shot at this one. Can you see it there? I'll read it out if someone can't see it. So I'm curious how life circumstances can affect this. I know you said your number doesn't change, but for example, a lot of what you described for 9 can be seen as a coping mechanism for those who are in an unsafe situation or with a history of trauma. And that is huge. I've been listening to a lot of Enneagram podcasts, and they talk a lot about trauma, a lot about grieving, and I don't have a good answer. So Tasha, go ahead.
Again, so we never said this. I am no expert on this. I found this a year and a half ago, and it changed the way I walk through life. And I'm very passionate about it, but that's it. Everything I'm sharing with you today are from other resources that I'm pulling. This isn't some great knowledge I've gone to school for or anything. It's just been like a passion of mine to grow in. So my first thought is that in the Enneagram, sometimes we talk about childhood traumas and how they can play a role, like is this nature versus nurture, that sort of thing. But I think we may kind of answer this too in the arrows, right? So later we're going to talk about how I don't have the diagram here, but a number 9, oh yeah, so we'll get to here in a little bit, but just to answer this question. So somebody who's a number 3 may do some of those like more negative number 9 behaviors when they're in stress. So there's that, and then there's also within each number, there's levels of health. So I think any number getting low in their level of health can start to disintegrate all over the place, right? And somebody that's been in trauma, somebody that's just trying to cope, might fall into any number of the negative attributes of any of the, like we just kind of start to spiral out of control. I don't know if that helps at all, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like different life experiences can definitely make different aspects of our personality come up stronger, like you say, coping mechanisms. But I guess the like deep, what are the 4 things? Fear and desire, weakness and longing, like those would stay the same, but they just might be reflected differently, or they might come out differently. So yeah, hopefully you'll get some more insights as we go in, and we'll link some resources at the end so you can go right to the experts and get a better answer as well. But that's a really good question. Okay, number 3.
Okay. Yeah, and I think as we go along here, some of this will be answered. Like we're just on like onion layer 1 right now.
Yeah.
As much as we've talked about a lot already, this is really the base of everything, and we're going to get further into this. And it kind of might start the intricacies of different personalities and how this all works. So yeah, where did I?
You're on number 3.
Okay, thank you. So at number 3, their core fear is being exposed to as or thought. Okay, sorry.
Exposed as.
Being exposed as or thought of as incompetent, inefficient, or worthless, failing to be or appear successful. Probably appear unsuccessful is probably what it meant there. Good job. Okay. And number 3's core desire is having high status and respect, being admired, successful, and valuable. Number 3's core weakness would be deceiving yourself into believing that you are the only image. Wow, I needed to proofread my own notes. Sorry. Number 3's core weakness is deceiving yourself into believing that you're the only image presenting to others. And I butchered that a little bit, but hopefully this will still make sense. Their core weakness is also embellishing the truth by putting on I have a Polish persona, but it's not Polish, it's a polished.
Polish persona, gotcha.
It's not a weakness to be Polish. So a number 3 will embellish the truth by putting on a polished persona for everyone, including themselves, to be seen and admired. A number 3's core longing is to know you are loved for simply being you.
That's interesting. So they're like push and desire, like they're the champion, the leader, the achiever, but then their longing is really just to be loved for themselves. We all have these like tensions within us.
Yes, this dichotomy that we live in. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And number 4's core fear is being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, flawed, or insignificant. I'm sorry, I laugh because I'm a 4. It's just... Okay. The number 4's core desire is to be unique, special, and authentic. A number 4's core weakness is feeling that you're tragically flawed and something fundamental is missing inside you, and others possess qualities that you lack. A number 4's core longing is to know that you're seen and loved for exactly who you are, that you're special and unique.
Yes. We need everyone's uniqueness, and 4s bring so much fresh perspective and yet can feel so misunderstood, so then they don't bring their perspective and we need it. And Crystal's comment before with the 3s that we'll need more reading so she can determine which one she is. And Christine is saying her husband's an 8 or a 9 and she's a 2, so it makes life interesting. There's a whole bunch of resources too on relationships between the different numbers, which is so interesting when you start reading like, oh, that's every conversation I've had with my spouse.
Seriously, I tell people, if you want to know what my marriage is like, look up the 4 and 9 together. And it's like someone wrote, it's like we went to counseling and you're reading their notes. Like,
yeah.
Okay. A 5?
5.
So a 5, their core fear is being alienated, invaded, or not existing, being thought incapable or ignorant, having obligations placed upon you, or your energy being completely depleted. A number 5's core desire is being capable and competent. A number 5's core weakness is feeling that you lack inner resources and that too much interaction with others will lead to catastrophic depletion. Without holding yourself from contact with the world, holding on to your resources and minimizing your needs. Number 5's core longing is your needs, or a number 5's core longing is to know your needs aren't a problem.
Oh, that's good insight. I just find it so fascinating that so many of them, it's whatever the strength is the fear. Like a 5 is so capable and so intellectual and competent, and then their fear is that they're not good enough, they're not competent, they can't figure it out. Like,
yeah,
it's baffling. Why are we so strange as humans?
That's a whole other.
Yeah, don't answer that.
So a number 6, their core fear is fearing fear itself. Being without support, security, or guidance. Being blamed, targeted, alone, or physically abandoned. A number 6's core desire is having security, guidance, and support. And number 6's core weakness is scanning the horizon of life and trying to predict and prevent negative outcomes, especially worst-case scenarios, remaining in a constant state of apprehension and worry. And the number 6's core longing is to know you are safe and you are secure.
I'm married to a number 6, and the description, the more in-depth one, it's like a walking contradiction. Like, they're so strong at this and they're so worried about this. And it's like everything is a little bit of a contradiction. They're amazing, wonderful, like loyal, like brings the group together, like so many cool qualities. But then they're like looking at the horizon and making sure safety and security is in place. He's so strong at that, and that's my biggest weakness. So it's a really good to have both personalities.
Totally. My dad is a 6. And yeah, it really is.
Nice. Emily's got it. She says she's a 6.
Okay.
All right. So do more reading, and then because it doesn't have to be set in stone. So like find what resonates, keep on reading, and then maybe you'll shift a little bit, and then you'll settle on something. But it's so exciting when you're like, oh wow, that's me.
You just read my diary.
Yeah.
Yes, and as we keep talking here tonight, you might go like, oh, maybe I'm actually, if you think you're a 6, you might actually be a 5 or a 7. So we'll get into this. So a 7. A 7's core fear is being deprived, trapped in emotional pain, limited or bored, missing out on something fun. A number 7's core desire is being happy, fully satisfied, and content. And number 7's core weakness is feeling a great emptiness inside and having an insatiable desire to fill yourself up with experiences and stimulation in hopes of feeling completely satisfied and content. And number 7's core longing is to know you'll be taken care of.
I really like the way you use the words on the fears. That made way more sense than some of the other ones, because what did you just say? The fear of being trapped in emotional pain, because other places said trapped or fear of pain. And I'm like, I'm a CrossFitter. I do pain. That doesn't resonate. Emotional pain, though, is a different thing. That, yes, I can agree with. I don't like.
Okay. Yeah. See, like just the slight wording makes a light bulb go off. Okay. And number 8. This is our last one because we started with number 9. And number 8's core fear is being weak, powerless, harmed, controlled, vulnerable, manipulated, and left at the mercy of injustice. And number 8's core desire is protecting yourself and those in your inner circle. And number 8's core weakness is constantly desiring intensity, control, and power, pushing yourself willfully on life and people in order to get what you desire. And number 8's core longing is to know you will not be betrayed.
Oh, wow.
And so, oh yeah, go ahead.
the dichotomy. They're the strong ones, and they're afraid of being weak. So I guess that's why they become stronger. Like we counter whatever our fear is.
Yeah. So all of those are from EnneagramCoach.com, and she has an Enneagram Types free download that you just send them your email, and they'll send you the free download with all that information in there. They're a great resource. So that's just simply where that's from.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good overview. It's a lot of information to digest. So really, like, if this piques your interest, do more reading, because the more you read, the more like nuances kind of get figured out, and the more you can, sort out some of the language.
Yeah. So we're almost at an hour here. Do we want to keep going?
Why don't we go 10 more minutes and do kind of brief overview of the lines and wings? Those are the main two parts.
Okay.
I know that's asking a lot.
Okay. I'll just
give them teaser, and then they can read more, because this is just an introduction today, guys.
Yeah.
This is like, pique your interest, do more research.
Okay. So real quick, levels of development, because I think this refers to that one question we had about traumas. So I'm going to just read this. It's, again, this is from EnneagramisTinstitute.com. So to go fast and not bunny trail, I'm just going to read. Levels of development. Each number type is built of specific behaviors, attitudes, defenses, and motives. We see these in the 9 levels of development, which make up the personality type itself. The levels of development provide a framework for seeing how all of the different traits that comprise each type fit into a large whole. They are a way of conceptualizing the underlying skeletal structure of each type. Without the levels, the types can seem to be an arbitrary collection of unrelated traits, with contradictory behaviors and attitudes often part of the picture. But by understanding the levels for each type, one can see how all of the traits are interrelated, and how healthy traits can deteriorate into average traits and possibly into unhealthy ones. So I have my notes. We can, within our number, go from a healthy 4 to an average 4 to an unhealthy 4. Choose myself as an example.
Okay.
How
many levels are there? 9
there's
levels?
9 different levels.
Okay.
And there's 3 categories in there, but I'm just squishing as much as I can.
Okay.
So we can go from a place of liberation, which is like health level number 1, to overcompensation, to pathological destructiveness, and anywhere in between those 3 things. So I know I've had people figure out their number, it kind of related, and then they looked at their health and they went, I'm at a number 6 in my health. But what that does is points you to a direction of like, okay, what can I work on? How can I be better? How can I be a better me?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of where too, if you are super healthy in your number and then you're hearing this whole like description, like, well, I don't relate to that really negative thing there. That could still be the number, but you've actually done enough self-work.
Yeah. Well, if you're met with a trauma in your life, or you go through something hard and maybe something knocks you down a bit, you might start relating to more of those things. Yeah, different times of your life. So this is where you can have 2 people of the exact same personality. So you have 2 number 4s, and they can look completely different from each other. And you're like, how are you the same personality? Part of that can be where they are in their levels of health.
Yeah.
There's more to that too.
So,
arrows.
Okay, arrows.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, so here we have these lines that we saw at the beginning of the Enneagram, connecting each number to different numbers. So we have directions of integration or growth, and I have those in blue. And we have arrows of disintegration or stress, and those are in red. So again, from EnneagramInstitute.com says, the inner lines of the Enneagram connect two types in a sequence that denotes what each type will do under different conditions. There are two lines connected to each type, and they connect with two other types. One line connects with a type and represents how a person of the first type behaves when they are moving towards health and growth. This is called the direction of integration or growth. The other line goes to the other type that represents how the person is likely to act out if they are under increased stress and pressure. They feel they are not in control of the situation. The second line is also called the direction of stress or disintegration. In other words, different situations will evoke different kinds of responses from your personality. You will respond or adapt in different directions as indicated by the lines of the Enneagram. So do you want to just hit the next thing, or do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Maybe just to sum that a little simpler. So whatever your number is, that's your number. And then when you go to positive, what part?
Let's look at the 4 again, because that's what sorry, I totally interrupted you.
That's good. Yeah, use 4.
I'm like on buzzing forward mentality now. So if we look at the number 4, we see a blue arrow pointing up to a 1. So when I am being my best number 4 or growing, needing making good moves in life, I'm gonna have attributes of the positive 1. And we see the red arrow on the 4 pointing to the 2. So for myself as a 4, my arrow of disintegration is a 2. And that means when I'm in stress or not being my best self, different things like that, I'm going to be more people pleasing in a negative way. I'll put myself down and try and meet your needs. Yeah. It's a whole.
You wouldn't take the negatives to 1 per se. You would the good organization and getting things done, you're on track, you're taking that when you're doing well, and you wouldn't take the positives of the 2. You would take the negatives when you're stressed, you're going to kind of more clingy people pleaser kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So positive to 1, negative to the other. Okay.
So then we could move on to wings.
Okay.
Again, we're hitting things super quick now, and there's lots for you to just start digesting yourself. So then a wing is a number next to your own. You cannot determine your wing before determining your core type. So I'm a 4, my potential wings are a 3 or a 5. This is significant for some. For some people, they have a very dominant wing, and for other people, it's not at all. So for myself, I don't really know what my wing would be, a 5 or a 3, because I'm just such a 4. I don't relate with a lot of the traits of a 3 and a 5. But for someone like my sister, this made the complete and utter difference for her. So she is a 2. And when I first introduced her to the Enneagram, she was like, wow, that is you. When she read a 4, she was so in awe of how it summed me up. And she was so excited. She took the test and she was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. And she read all the personalities and she's like, okay, I guess a 2 is close. And then I was like, well, why is this working for her? And so we looked into wings. And when she read the definition of a 1 wing for a 2, the whole thing lit up. And so I was talking with her earlier today, and she said the Enneagram at first was disposable. Like any old personality test she had taken over the years, it was cool in the moment. She didn't think about it the next day until she found the 1 wing. So yeah, she just felt overwhelmingly understood. So I asked her today, so why are you not a core 1 with a 2 wing then? If you're so strongly relating, and it's the core motivation. So her core motivation of life why she's acting out things like a 1 is the motivation of needing to be wanted and loved.
Yeah.
Whereas a 1's core motivation is to know that they're good. And that part of the 1 doesn't resonate. So like her core, her heart, her most person is motivated.
Person, I like that.
Is motivated by needing to be wanted and loved, needing to know that she's wanted and loved. And so she does tasks, she tasks life, she gets things done so that people will love her and want her.
Yes. I think that's such a good point even to end on, is like, take the test, do the reading, but even no matter what the test tells you, like that's kind of the main question. Come back to, what is that driving factor? What's that motivation of why you do the things, and then how you do and what you do might be part of your wing, might be part of your integration, disintegration, all those other kind of factors. But the real root of this is, what's your person? Person.
That's what we got tonight. And this again describes why you can have a person that's a number 2, and they can look completely different from somebody else that's a number 2, because 1 might have a very strong 1 wing and 1 might have a very strong 3 wing, and they're going to look completely different. So my sister and her mother-in-law are both 2s. When her mother-in-law took the test, her son laughed at her and said, "Go take it again, because Melody's a 2 and you're not the same." And so she took a bunch of tests, and then Melody told her, "Well, actually, you probably are just look over here at the 3 wing," and then it was wide open for her as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And to add on to that with like extrovert, introvert, we talked about that way at the beginning. Like a 7 is typically described as this like extrovert class clown kind of person. And I was like, well, I don't resonate that far with it. And then I found out you can actually be an introvert 7. I don't know if I'm an introvert, extrovert. I have no idea, but it doesn't matter within any of the numbers. It is your core motivation more so than how you display it.
Yeah, so that's actually my last point here. We can do that, and then we've hit everything I had, is our instincts. So you can leave the wing thing there or take it away, but we're done with it now. So this is where I am in discovering the Enneagram. Everything above us that we've talked about tonight, personally, I have a pretty good grasp on. Again, I'm no expert, but this next part is what I'm now delving into and understanding more for myself. And this is a 1.5 years later, right, that I'm getting into this. And this is our instincts. So we all have, I'm just going to read again. This is from the Enneagram Institute. We all have 3 instincts in us. Every human has these 3 things in them, just might be in a different order of prevalence for yourself. So one of them is the dominant focus of our attention and behaviors, the set of attitude and values that are the most attracted to and comfortable within that person. We each also have a second instinct that is used to support the dominant instinct, as well as a third instinct that is the least developed and a real blind spot in our personality and our values. So these 3 instincts are the self-preserving instinct, sexual or attraction instinct, and social or adaptive instinct. The self-preserving instinct is to be preoccupied with the safety, comfort, health, energy, and well-being of the physical body. In a word, they are concerned with having enough resources to meet life's demands. So someone in the sexual or attraction instinct has an intense drive for stimulation, a constant awareness of the chemistry between themselves and others. Sexual types are immediately aware of the attraction or lack thereof between themselves and other people. And the social or adaptive instinct, these people will adapt themselves to serve the needs of the social situation. highly aware of other people, whether they are in an intimate situation or in groups. They are also aware of how their actions and attitudes are affecting those around them. So we all have those three in them. One's going to be strong, one's going to be supporting, and one's going to be a blind spot. It's a whole nother layer of this onion to learn. But I think it explains that, like, as a 7, you can be really intense or more subdued. It's probably what of these instincts is your strongest.
Yeah.
Or blind spot.
Never-ending learning. There's so much to all of it. Yeah. And if you feel overwhelmed just listening to everything that was presented, like don't worry, take the little bit you got from today and then go and read more and think more and just like take some time to process and self-analyze. Like it can never be a negative to learn more about yourself, because then we can learn how to relate to other people and we become better.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily is asking where we recommend going to for the website to take the test. As soon as we finish here, we're going to paste it as the final comment, because all the comments kind of get jumbled in a Facebook Live. So yes, we will put that in to direct you there, and you also have a link with a bunch of information for reading, right?
Yeah, I'm going to link everything that I used tonight, and I'll also link the test I really like to take. For me, it's the most accurate. Like, I've had people take other tests and it never, right, this one kind of comes out accurate and shows you your percentage on each one. So you can, even if your highest one doesn't resonate with you, you can figure out what your next one is, where other ones will just be like, this is who you are. So I would start by taking that test. And then once you know that number, there's a little bit of information there, but then I would go to the second link I'll share, which is the Enneagram Institute. And that's where you can read about your type. You can read about mistyping. So if you're really torn between two types, you can put them in together and maybe it'll help clarify for you. And it's got all this information. You can also find the relationship information on that website as well. So this is like, we're all kind of becoming like personality doctors, and you have to practice and you have to learn how to diagnose yourself and others. And so you can't just start going in full tilt, right? There's like a learning curve to this.
Yeah, definitely. Jazz had a question about a 2 and 1 and different percentages, but probably the mistyping article will be the best to direct you to there.
Yeah, I can look at this afterwards, or we can private message and try and figure that out. So I like the detective to all this and helping people figure themselves out and find this liberation. For me, again, just from the beginning, like, this is just such a great way to show ourselves grace and other people grace, and show ourselves empathy and other people empathy, and just, yeah, it's really great.
It's nice to be understood.
Yeah.
And to understand yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you so much, Tasha, giving us your evening. She's in Alberta, so it's even later over there. She's staying up for us, so appreciate it so much. And thank you for introducing me to this whole world that I've been nonstop learning about now and kind of getting obsessed about.
You need something to do while you're home.
Exactly. This is a perfect time to be introduced to the Enneagram, because there's endless information on it. So start researching.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. So for everyone watching, we have another workout tomorrow at 8:30. Oh, I just want to see what Chris said. Equally between 1 and 4. 6 minutes. You're just everything. Anyway. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming and watching. And we'll be back for another AO1 Conversation next Tuesday at 7:30. All right. Take care.